Tonight, I came across a video, and I guess Tucker Carlson is going to be doing a documentary in Brazil. So, we're going to go dig up this video I watched earlier, and we're going to start following Tucker Carlson for the next couple of weeks into American economics, because I believe something's going down, and if that man went all the way to Brazil to drop a documentary on the twisted shit, I'm following him. So we're just going to keep tagging along and see how this goes. Hopefully we can dig up some more with him. Alright, so we're going to get started here. I'm attacking this is called a rat's castle tonight. We are inbound. It's going to take us another 10 minutes to get there, and then we'll have the results. But we're going to put that down in the corner like we always do, so everybody can just watch that if they want. Check it out and let me know when my soldiers have arrived on base. Alright, let's see here. YouTube. So we're gonna go straight in this. I'm gonna find the Tucker Carlson page. Alright, I know the easiest way to find this is gonna be in my playlist. I don't know where. Here it is.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. We're coming to you this evening from Rio de Janeiro, which is a huge and beautiful and very complex city.
Yeah, just hold on 1 second, Tucker. We're gonna let you load up. Yeah, it's pretty cool looking at Rio de Janeiro like this. I can't wait to see the rest of what he does down here. Why would he go all the way down there? He's digging into what I've seen. We'll let the video go, but it has to do with Chinese trade, I believe, because everyone's getting worried that the Chinese are advancing really fast because of the whole Taiwan fiasco, and now the Prime Minister of Japan was assassinated, and it's said that it had to do with a religious group. I'm not quite sure how much of that to believe, especially with the motives and movements that China is pushing on right now.
On the South American coast. We're going to be here all week. We're filming a documentary for our Tucker Carlson original series on the rise of Chinese power and influence in Brazil. Brazil is the largest...
There we go. The rise of Chinese power in Brazil. And influence. That's... Yep. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let this roll.
Largest economy in Latin America by far. It's one of the biggest in the world, and it is the most important ally of the United States in the Western Hemisphere. Brazil is a big deal. And yet the Biden administration seems determined to hand Brazil over to the sphere of influence of the Chinese Communist Party. Why is that exactly? We hope to find out. We'll also be sitting down for a rare interview with the president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, soon. We'll bring that to you when we do. But first tonight, we'd like to begin with the loud and at times violent response to the end of Roe v. Wade that came down to the Supreme Court on Friday, as you know. If you've been following this...
All right. So, when it comes to Roe versus Wade, I'm not going to stand by anything anybody has to say. I'm going to stay completely neutral, because I'm not It's a better way to say this. As well as many people who are out there screaming at the top of their lungs, I'm not educated well enough in this matter to say anything about it. Because I do not know what's actually going on behind closed doors in this situation when it comes to the law, the matter, how they deal with the fetus, and what life is life. Life is precious, and bad things happen to good people. All of the above. Everyone has a valid argument on every side, and it's one of the most complicated situations American history has probably brought onto our plate. So I'm just gonna stick with the foreign politics, and if anybody wants to break down in comments later about where this is gonna go with the Roe versus Wade, we can do another video on that, but just not tonight.
You may have noticed a profound change in the way the Democratic Party talks about the issue of abortion. Gone is the empathy or the room for compromise. So from the very beginning of this debate 50 years ago, even the staunchest pro-lifer acknowledged the anguish of young women who are pregnant and don't want to be, who are alone and feel trapped by the child growing inside them. And that is the reason that pro-life institutions have built crisis pregnancy centers. And to be fair, for generations, even the most committed pro-choicers acknowledge the inherent sadness of abortion, which at the very least is the end of a potential life. Quote, "I do not view abortion as a choice," said Joe Biden as recently as 2006. "I think it's always a tragedy." And of course, it always is a tragedy, even if you believe it should be legal. And Democrats once said this out loud, forthrightly. In fact, in 1997, as White House counsel, now Supreme Court Justice Elena Kagan urged her boss, Bill Clinton, to sign a ban on partial birth abortions. Elena Kagan has always been pro-choice, but ending the life of a child a week before birth was too much even for her. And of course, for his part, Bill Clinton never spoke about abortion as anything but as a last resort. He famously described it as something that should be, quote, safe, legal, and rare.
Our vision should be of an America
I agree with that.
where abortion is safe and legal, but rare.
You don't hear that on the left anymore, ever. In fact, many on the left now behave as if abortion is itself a positive good, excited by the fact that a child who would have been born wasn't. Think about that for a moment. Celebrating the failure of a child to come into the world. What does that say about how you feel about children or about people?
Nobody's
In fact,
celebrating
some behave
anything.
as if having an abortion is preferable to having children. How do we know this? Well, no one on the left encourages women to brag about having kids. Having more than a couple of children, at most, in fact, is considered weird and embarrassing, something that Mormons and people who live in the ghetto do. But abortion, that's something to tell your friends about. There's even a Shout Your Abortion campaign, highly well-funded, complete with perky T-shirts bragging about ending your pregnancy. What does that say? Nothing good. Over the weekend, you saw a lot of people proudly shouting about their abortions at pro-choice riots all over the country. Here's what Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles look like.
This is not a lie. This is all true. What you're seeing here is may or may not be necessary. The government never does anything unless people rise up.
The hysteria is telling. It's not the assault on bodily autonomy.
And they always shoot us down and meet us in the middle
Wade.
after we've calmed down.
Those are the same people who demanded vaccine mandates. But this happened all over the country. In Arizona, thousands of enraged rioters tried to storm the state capitol. On Friday night, they tore down security fencing.
Okay. I'm not going to get into the Roe versus Wade on this subject, but I will get into the matter of protest. A protest used to be formal, civil, aligned. I mean, it was orchestrated back then. It was nicely done. People cared about the way they looked and the way they presented themselves upon this situation. They didn't want to look like a bunch of goddamn animals in a zoo because nobody's gonna support a fucking riot. There, I said it. Nobody's gonna support you if you're tearing down our cities. People live in these homes, people live in these buildings, people live on these streets, and you're out here destroying them. You want people to listen to you, give them a reason to. Just like any loud kid in class. We all went to school and we've seen it. There's always that loud kid who never got the attention he wanted. He either got kicked out of class or whatnot, because he didn't just stand in line and do as he was told. This is a square country. You're not allowed to be a circle here. If you want to be a circle, get the hell out of America. Now, I'm not going to sit here and talk about transgenderism or nothing. You can be gay, straight, whatever you want. You can be half man, half woman. You know, it's all how you're born. That stuff's really not up to you. It's genetics. You know, and be true to yourself, of course. But please, please, I'm talking every movement. Stop the destruction. I live 4 hours north of Minneapolis in Minnesota, and you identify, I'm over here, I got Twitch over here, identify as a grilled cheese sandwich. I love this guy. That's what's up. Alright, I'm just gonna keep moving. I was getting lost in that. That was too good. Thank you, Ghost.
Around the building. They pounded on the Senate's glass doors and windows while the legislature was in session. Police had to fire tear gas from the windows to protect the politicians inside.
Did they have to? Did they have to project tear gas? Or did they want to and feel the need to? Because I've had many friends on both ends of these riot lines who both say if we would just back up and let the protesters protest, they wouldn't push so hard. It's the same thing as putting a rat in a cage. That rat's gonna rattle that cage all night long unless you give them something to distract them. And they weren't out here supporting these protesters. They weren't giving them water, taking care of them, and giving them medical needs for any of the craziness that's happening that's out of control that they can't control. Because there are people out there sabotaging these events.
Here's what the state capital of Arizona looked like on Friday.
I wouldn't be able to read your sign if you were shaking it around that much either. Looking from the inside out gives you a way different perspective. I could imagine the people on the inside would feel frightful for their lives, especially with all the craziness that's been going on lately. So for cops to step in and do what they have to do, yes. Tear gas? Maybe. How about rubber bullets and stun guns? The old proper police way. You know, you get the one bad apple out of the bunch, the one who's causing the most craziness, goes a little bit above and beyond, yanking at the doors. The one who commits the first real crime, you pick them off the front of the line. There needs to be strategy, something our police officers have lost a lot of in the last 3 years. And I'm not going to blame it on the cops because they've lost about 50% of their forces in the last 3 years. All the OGs have retired because they're sick of dealing with the criticism of trying to do their damn jobs. And yeah, we've got some bad cops out there too. Nobody's denying that. But we're not talking about that tonight.
Looks like insurrection to us, but no arrests were made at the Arizona State Capitol on Friday when that footage was shot. There will be no FBI investigation. Democrats who called January 6th the racist insurrection said nothing this weekend about the violent siege of the state capital of Arizona. Did you expect them to? No, of course not. And in fact, instead, they justified it.
Let's be clear. We have so many problems with the Supreme Court and the legitimacy.
This court has lost legitimacy. They have burned whatever legitimacy they may still have had.
This is a crisis of legitimacy.
And that threatens the court's long-term legitimacy.
The court is about to face one of the largest threats to perceived legitimacy ever in its history.
The Supreme Court has lost legitimacy with the American people.
The crisis of the very legitimacy of the United States Supreme Court fills me with sorrow.
Well, you got to give them credit for all being on the same page as usual. We'd love to get the conference code to the morning call where they set that up. But because the court did something they don't like, they're not telling us the third branch of government is, quote, illegitimate. The Supreme Court is illegitimate because it's allowing voters to decide what they want to do with abortion. Some will call that democracy, a system in which citizens choose their own form of government. They're telling us it's illegitimate. On Sunday, the unelected governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, explained that without 9 members of the Supreme Court dictating the law for hundreds of millions of Americans, women are fundamentally oppressed.
Because we're going to get a flood of people. I have declared this as our safe harbor. This is where we have the Statue of Liberty, welcoming people who are oppressed, women who cannot receive fundamental right to control their body or receive an abortion. They are oppressed. They're welcome here in the state of New York.
So we could go on and play you absurd soundbite after absurd soundbite. But what are we seeing here? It's not simply an attack, an explicit attack on the legitimacy of the third branch of government, the court. It's not just an attack on the right of people to govern themselves. It's something bigger than that. What you're seeing is a coordinated attack on the family and on children. People at these protests are angered at the idea that children are being born. Watch what's happening there. That is hardly an overstatement. Here's a photograph on your screen from this weekend. It was taken outside the Supreme Court. It shows a mother humiliating her children in public, implying they are a burden to her because they are still living. We saw things like this everywhere at pro-abortion protests, often in full view of children. This was the scene, for example, in Dallas this weekend. Watch. So, what is that exactly? What about the thought of having children makes these people so angry? Where does an attitude like that come from? Well, as it turns out, that attitude comes from the same place the Democratic Party now gets all of its attitudes, directly from corporate America. Corporate America wants you childless, and this is a big change. 100 years ago, big companies built housing for the families of their employees and then schools and libraries to educate them. It was the humane thing to do, but it also seemed to make good business sense at the time. If you wanted workers you could count on, you had to take care of them and their offspring. But over time, that arrangement got expensive. Employees with families demanded higher wages to support their children, and in many cases, they formed unions to get those raises. So labor costs soared. So corporate America, in response to this, developed a new model: hire single women. At many big companies, including in the traditionally male banking sector, young women now make up the majority of new employees, and you can see why they do. They work hard, they're reliable, they tend to be loyal to the companies they work for. The one downside to hiring young women is they can get pregnant. If you're running the HR department at Citibank, that is the last thing you want. Children make your health care plan more expensive. Worse than that, they tend to compete with an employee's attention. Responding to after-work emails seems less pressing to most new moms than putting their own kids to bed. That's a huge problem for big companies, so they have every incentive to prevent their workers from having children. They can't say that out loud, of course.
So, my wife and my son, our family, we deal with this problem a lot. When we get working, if our schedules ever collide, for me, it's easy to take a day off because I've always been a very stubborn asshole, and when I get hired at a job, I tell them that if I need to leave, I'm leaving. And if I don't have a job when I come back, that's on you. But I've got a family to take care of, and sometimes you just need a day off. Sometimes you need to take care of family, because family always comes first. But for a lot of the ladies in this country, they fall into these corporated jobs. See, men like us, we can go into labor, we can get mouthy, we can trash talk. I shouldn't. Yeah, someone's gonna get triggered by this, by me saying men and women have different roles, but it's just reality. Woman gets screwed over in the long run because they all have to work for these shitty, down low, fucking horrible paid jobs at grocery stores, diners, and fucking convenience stores, gas stations. The numberless. Yeah, unless they're well educated and have been put through the system and have forged their way to a successful path, which not everyone gets the chance to do. And the economy won't recognize that. They recognize the ones who have, and they won't do anything for the ones who haven't. Because some people just want to live a simple life. And when we're living a simple life, we don't require $1 million in the bank. But when payments go up, bills go up, but our wages don't, that simple life we used to have starts to dig its way further into poverty. So all these people in poverty are just getting stricken lower and lower by these corporations in the long run. It's sort of sad, you know. She was a manager for Dollar General, and they wouldn't give her a goddamn day off. She's working 7 days a week. And I'm telling you, 2-3 months straight, not one day off. She's got a family at home, and she's there from sun up to sundown. And this Dollar General company wouldn't do a single thing to help her get a day off. They just abandoned her with like probably 100 other stores around the country. It's horrible. And she ended up quitting. Thank God for her, because we weren't doing that no more. They are unfair, and they had her on salaries, so she was working 75 goddamn hours a week. And she was only getting paid for 40. You know, and they force you, if you want that job, they force you to exempt. So you can't get paid for your overtime at all. There's no chance of it. And, I mean, it'd be great if some lawyer would tell me a way that they could, because I would share that information very well. But there's a cap put on the lower tier citizens these days, and it weighs a heavy weight, and it keeps you down where you're at, while everyone else is floating above, living the high life.
It'd be too obvious. Give us the best years of your life, and in exchange, we'll pay you what's effectively a subsistence wage in whatever overpriced urban hellscape we're based in, and then take from you the one thing that might give your existence meaning and joy in middle age, which is having children. That's the deal we're offering. That is the deal they're offering, but they can't say that.
Of course.
It would sound like what it is, which is exploitation. No better than what the cotton mills once did to 14-year-old girls. So instead of saying that, which is the truth, corporate America uses the language of the social movement it created, feminism, to spin the entire arrangement as some sort of progressive liberation movement. Fight the patriarchy, have an abortion. It's got nothing to do with lowering our labor costs, we promise. But of course it does have everything
to do with lowering our labor
costs. Across the country, they are making that case, abortion as liberation. Many of the biggest American companies are now paying female employees to have abortions, to end their pregnancies. That would include Microsoft and Apple, Facebook, Yelp, Netflix, Comcast, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, JP Morgan, Nike, Starbucks.
Let's take a minute to admire this list. It's a long list. Reddit is on there. Does Reddit even have employees? What kind of place is it? Tesla? I don't know. That doesn't surprise me. But it sort of does, because Elon's got a little army himself, man. I mean, if he was all about abortions, he probably would have paid every single one of those ladies to have one. But instead, he chose to have these children and support their needs. So, I'm a little shocked by that. DoorDash, that can't be real. I feel like they just pasted a bunch of this shit up here. We're gonna look into that later this week.
Etc., etc. Dick's Sporting Goods is offering female employees up to $4,000 if they get an abortion. Does the company offer the same amount to female employees who want to have children? Well, the editors at Breitbart wondered that. They asked Dick's Sporting Goods that question, but the company didn't even respond. And that tells you the answer.
Yeah, it does.
What's amazing is that in the face of this, so many Americans who ought to know better have fallen for it. So some accountant at a soulless publicly traded corporation concludes that drones with no personal lives make cheaper workers. That's what happened. But rather than question this or resist it, your average college-educated NPR listener nods in vigorous bovine agreement, and then becomes completely hysterical when someone suggests that maybe there's another way to live, that it's at least theoretically possible that raising your own children might be more rewarding as a life choice than commuting into a slum on public transportation in order to claw your way up to middle management at Deutsche Bank. But the very thought of that, of turning down Deutsche Bank to bring new life into the world, drives these people into a frenzy of rage. Choosing a family over service to global capitalism? That's disgusting. Shut up. Journalist Drew Hernandez ran into people like this over the weekend. Here's how it went.
Alright. It broke me. Said I wasn't gonna go into it, but I'm going into it. Abortion is just like Trump. Abortion is a necessary evil. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's not. When you're out partying and you're having a good time, you get a little drunk and you decide to go home with someone that's attractive to you, and you're one night, we know where it leads, okay? I'm not even gonna, obviously you got your bang on and you're knocked up, okay? Now this guy, he leaves you. He doesn't have to face these consequences. But he does. We have laws in place to protect you. Child support, whatnot. Now, is child support a necessary evil? Yeah. It's also another necessary evil. It's necessary for some, and for a majority it's not. A lot of people get slammed with child support and it ruins their whole life. Well, I got a news flash for you. Wear a condom. We need to start wearing condoms. Start making families, not babies. There are too many kids in the adoption system for all these girls who say, oh, I don't want to abort it, I'll just put them up for adoption. Well, that's been going on for 20, 40 years now, and the adoption system is overflooded. And I would know. I'm a product of that. I came out of that world. I was adopted out of that world because someone didn't want me and my brother, because they decided that they wanted to live a life on the party edge. So her mother decided, for what I may know, probably, hey, why don't you give them off to a better family so they can live a life if you don't want to take care of them? Because my imagination would probably stray to the point where grandmothers are sick of taking care of your children. And there's a motto for that too. If you don't want to raise your grandchildren, you better raise your goddamn children. Otherwise, you'll be raising their children. And that's been one of the biggest issues in America this last goddamn 20 years. Abortion is a necessary evil. It is a fucked up world where little girls get violated, sometimes by family members. And this is something that needs to be addressed because it's the truth. And if people don't want to talk about this, then they need to stay the hell out of the entire conversation, because this is the whole pie. You don't get to just take a slice. You need to take the whole pie and look at that fucking thing. It's a big pie. There's a lot of slices on that pie. And if you're just going to take one slice and think you know how the whole pie tastes, you're stupid. Because there's probably more sugar on that side of the pie. There's probably more bullshit going on that side of the pie than you knew. And you came over here and you took this little pie with just the extra little bit of whipped cream on it. And now you're just content because it's the easy way. Well, the truth is, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for this, but there are seriously fucked up individuals out there, male and female, where these little girls are taken advantage of under the age of 18 and over sometimes. You know, they're taken captive and forced to have one's child. Sometimes in Mormon families has been really common. And these girls find a way to escape, and they're you know, they could be in the second, third, fourth trimester, and you know, sometimes, you know, they're told it's too late, but sometimes they're told it's not, and it saves them from a life of having to struggle with the fact that they had to give birth not to their lover and the building member of their own family that they dreamt and built up to their whole life, but they have to deal with the mind fuck and the PTSD for the rest of their lives of who that suppressor was, and they had to give birth to that suppressor's child, someone who withheld them from a good life. And it's just horrible to think about. I could never imagine. So for abortion to be completely banned is not necessary. But for abortion to be reevaluated, torn down, and rebuilt in a different image needs to happen. It's a necessary evil. It's absolutely necessary for some situations. Now, is abortion a good thing? Absolutely not. If anybody in their right mind says abortion is a good thing, they've got no morality at that point. They're basically just following a herd and saying what they're saying, because if you had any goddamn common decent sense, you'd know that taking a life is never a good thing. And if you think that taking a life is a good thing, well, we got a place for that. It's called the loony bin. Well, I don't know, what else could I say about this? Oh, and as far as, when is this child considered alive? I don't know if anybody else took a health class back in school, but once that egg and that sperm cell do their thingy, and they make a thingy, that's a baby, dude. It may not look like it yet, it may not have the heart there yet, but all that stuff makes a baby, and it'll be here eventually. So it doesn't matter how soon or how late it's done. It's the same concept from A to B. You don't get to just kill a 1-year-old boy and say, oh, well, he barely knew life. I should only get 1 year of prison. He only, you know. No, it should be the opposite way. You should get 99 years in prison because that's how much time you stole from him. And as far as abortion goes, unnecessary abortions for some hoe that wants to go out, party, get knocked up, and then just go dump a baby and do it all over again? No, make her keep that shit. Make her straighten the fuck up, become a mother. Offer government classes to people who have babies and need to start living a single life. And we've got child support. There's always child support. Don't worry about that. And you know what? Stop banging men that won't step up and be a father, and you wouldn't have that situation in the first place. Well, we're coming down at the end of our 18-second ad here. We're going to kill this Tuckerson video. Not an 18-second ad, 3-minute ad. So anybody that doesn't follow or subscribe or whatever has to watch the ad.
Let's not have a conversation. You worthless little sack of. I guess the pandemic's over.
Okay.
What's wrong?
Okay, that too. The pandemic. I don't know if anybody's seen COVID out there lately. I haven't seen one case of it in a long time. I haven't worn a mask in forever. I don't even know if I wore one legitimately the whole time. I was somewhat had it a little tweaked to get some air in there. I got COVID 5 fucking times, but I quarantined. I stayed home. The second I got it, I knew I had it. My body kills me like that. But what the hell's going on now? Everyone quarantined. I guess the social distancing is over, right? Though, what did that end? Did Biden ever care to address what we're doing with this situation, or did he just say, they'll figure it out? They got this. Yeah, just like the people in Afghanistan. They got this. Yeah, just let them be. We'll just pull out.
Sir, you like killing babies? You love killing babies?
I love killing babies.
That was creepy. But that right there though, come on, people. We can't just kill babies. I don't think this was the video I really thought it was, but we will, however, be following Tucker Carlson's journey in Brazil. We're gonna watch that documentary when it comes out, because I love Tucker Carlson, but we're gonna start doing updates on all of his videos here, and we're gonna keep up with him daily, hopefully, or whatever he drops we're gonna drop, because sometimes I don't know what to think about the guy. 12% of the shit that comes out of his mouth, yeah, you can relate with it. And about 28% of the shit that comes out of his mouth is bro, shut up. And then comes down to the rest of the 60%. And it's just newscaster. Just regular. Just like CNN, just like everyone else. He's just telling the bullshit how it is. And yeah, he spills over it sometimes and adds a little twist to it the way Tucker does, but for the most part, he tells you what he knows. He's not withholding information. When he knows something, he can't shut the fuck up. So I like this guy. We're gonna keep watching him.
Drew Hernandez shot the footage you just saw. He's an investigative reporter and host of Turning Point USA's Frontlines. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens. Stories that are changing the world and changing your life.
Hell yeah.
Tucker Carlson tonight.
Thank you, Tucker.
We know you're...
Alright. That'll be a wrap on that session. I want everyone that watches this video over the next few weeks go follow Ghost Circuit. He's in my chat. And spread that love, man. You guys have a wonderful week. Thanks for stopping by.